Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Well, a deal has been reached on fast-track authority for President Obama so he can go on ahead and finish negotiating one of the world's largest trade deals. Of course, we're talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, but that's not all. Now, joining me in studio is David Knight. David, so this fast-track authority is just unprecedented. Here we have the Republicans now siding with Obama, whereas the Democrats are saying, hold up, we shouldn't do this. What's going on?
Well, it's actually been a bipartisan thing when they had NAFTA passed, because George H.W. Bush, when he was running for re-election against Clinton, they were both pushing NAFTA. And the only person speaking out against it at the time was Ross Perot. He's talking about a giant sucking sound. Well, of course, that's not just the money. That's also your sovereignty that's going down the drain. And I think the thing that bothers me the most is the fact that we have this fast-track process. In other words, we should have a public discussion about what's in this. It ought to be our representatives who are deciding this, who are crafting this. Instead, as they do in so many different ways with the bureaucracy, with the BLM, or with whether it's the IRS or these various agencies, the EPA, they let them go their own way. They abdicate their legislative authority that they should be doing, basically do nothing but fundraising is what they're doing now. So they pass this off to these corporate lobbyists who are doing this secretively.
Right.
And so what we've had here now is a bipartisan agreement with the leaders of the Republican Party, as well as the leaders of the Democrat Party, with Obama, saying we're not going to have this as an open process. They're going to have a vote on it, okay? And they say they're going to give them more time instead of just dumping it in a couple of days on them. Of course, they fast-tracked this agreement. So I guess I'm not sure if we can trust them to actually give people enough time to look at the thousands of pages, but it's going to be this massive omnibus bill, just like they do with the budget bill every year, just like they do with the NDAA. And you know all the stuff that they cram into the NDAA.
Right.
Okay, the Section 1033, the 1023, indefinite detention without trial, all this stuff. Even John McCain's bill to hand over to a foreign corporation the copper mining rights to this area of Arizona. Going to devastate the area. But that's the kind of thing we're going to see with these trading partnerships.
Right. And a lot of people who are against this are arguing that trade deals in the past have failed to deliver on their promises.
Yes.
And they've, made the country much worse, put it in a much worse position. But here that they're saying that, President Obama is embracing this legislation. He's saying it's going to level the playing field, give our workers a fair shot. And for the first time, it will include strong, fully enforceable protections for workers' rights, the environment, and a free and open internet. But that's not really what we've been hearing just from the things that have leaked.
That's right. The only information that we really have from this is what WikiLeaks has leaked to us. Thank you, WikiLeaks, because we can't get the truth from our legislative representatives, and we're not getting the truth certainly from Obama. Obama is basically referring to NAFTA. It's like, okay, we lied to you about a NAFTA, okay? It was a horrible deal. We've lost 61% of our manufacturing, and we've gone into debt with a trade deficit every year, and the last 14 years have been 14 record trade deficits. But that's okay. This is going to be all different. Right. Trust me, okay? What they're not even talking about, Leanne, is that it's worse than just the economic aspects of it. There's also the sovereignty issues of it. And we're seeing the sovereignty issues come into play. People are talking about it gradually now. We see Petraeus and Pelosi talking about, yeah, we don't have America anymore. Yeah, we don't have national borders anymore. It just doesn't matter to them anymore. Now they're talking about the sovereignty issues with NAFTA as they're putting this next level to. So it's essentially these building blocks to a global world governance that is run by corporations. One of the few things that they did, they threw them a bone and said, yeah, okay, we haven't really been telling you about what's going on, so we're going to give you a chief transparency officer. What a load of malarkey that is.
That like the Ebola czar?
Exactly.
So effective.
Yeah, we've gotten czars before, so now we've got a chief transparency officer. He's going to talk to us. We're going to wind up with investor-state dispute settlement court, okay? And that basically has the multinational corporations at the same level as states in terms of if they see that there's something that they think impacts their business or their profits, they can sue the nation. And we've already seen that happen with NAFTA, although it's not being reported by the mainstream media. These proceedings are pretty hard to find because they're done in secret, in arbitration. But we know it's going to happen. It's already happened here. There's been billions of dollars turned over from American taxpayers to these multinational corporations because their profits were impacted by regulation. It might be, for example, let's talk about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Let's say that they decide in Japan that they want to restrict nuclear power because of Fukushima, or they want to shut that down. Well, these companies could come back and say, you're impacting our profits, so you pay us. That's how this could turn out.
Wow. And we're already seeing that type of issue crop up with countries denying Monsanto and other biopharmaceutical geoengineering, things like that, from entering their country.
That's right.
And so now they're saying, well, you're cutting into our profits. But here are the differences is now they're going to be taking them to these independent tribunals where someone outside of everyone's...
When they say that this is going to be a big win for American agricultural products, what they're talking about is forcing on these other countries our genetically modified organisms that they have outlawed in their countries, and rightfully so.
Right.
There's a massive influx of organic products and having to import them to satisfy demand in America because the American corporations just want to give us this synthetic garbage. But other countries have basically said, no, you're not going to do that. So they're going to use this treaty to override that. They're going to use this treaty to control the internet, to do things that they could not pass legislatively, like CISPA, that they've tried repeatedly and failed. They're going to use digital rights to try to control the internet. There's a lot of things in here besides trade, but it is fundamentally about sovereignty. And what people should be really angry about is the fact that our elected representatives have enabled the corporate lobbyists to write these rules and have just abdicated any responsibility for having anything to do with this. It's going to come in with an up or down vote. They're going to say it's too important. I had to vote for this, this, and this. I know that was bad, but it was a take it all or leave it all. That's the way this is going to go down.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone's concerned because it's taken a few years for this to pass. Well, there's a reason why. It's because it's such a huge trade deal. It's going to affect so many different sectors around the world. And we know that it's absolutely going to impact jobs because of something that they've had to include in this package along the way to get Democrats to go along with it. Trade adjustment assistance. So this is trade adjustment assistance. It's going to be aid to workers whose jobs are displaced by global trade.
Let me tell you how that's going to work out. Okay, we're just looking at this thing in Oregon where they were coming against the miners, the BLM. It's an economically very depressed area because the U.S. Forestry Service shut down logging in that area. Now, understand that in the national parks, it's not clear-cut logging. They're going in the past, they would go in and they would take standing dead wood out, which reduces the chances of a catastrophic fire. Like we saw here in Bastrop, just outside of Austin, where it burned 99% of the state park that was there. Or like we saw in Yellowstone, devastating wildfires because the policy now is not what it used to be. I had an uncle who was a head of the forestry department at the University of Missouri, and that is irresponsible to manage the forest that way. It was a win-win situation. You could control wildfires and you could have an economy there. They took that down, and instead what they did was they gave welfare payments to the people who had previously made money in the logging industry. After 10 years, they stopped that. That's what's going to happen to this. They're going to ease the transition into a servitude state. Right. Because we're now at the point where we're losing our service jobs as well as our manufacturing jobs. We're getting a lowered wage base. But again, it's not even about that. It's about the sovereignty, and it's about the fact that our congressmen and senators would abdicate their responsibility to pass these laws. And we've got all the Republicans doing it, all the Republicans who are running for president, and you've got Obama doing it. There's a civil war in the Democrat Party, and they always run these things through with a Democrat president. Clinton ran through NAFTA, and you got Obama to run through Trans-Pacific Partnership, the Transatlantic Partnership, TTIP. That's where they're going to put it through because everybody would smell a rotten fish if it was coming through from the Republicans. They would say this is nothing but corporatism. And that's what it is. It's corporatism. This is not free trade any more than the bank bailouts were capitalism or free markets. It's not free markets. It's crony capitalism. And
that's why it's so obvious when you see the Republicans rallying around this and trying to let this be Obama's one big thing that he can push through before 2016 happens. It's
absolutely.
Quite clear.
They say it defines his legacy. Well, you know what it does define? It defines these presidential candidates for us. Because you have to look at this and say, why would they do this? Are they bought and sold? They can't be that stupid. I really can't believe that they're that stupid, that they could look at NAFTA and make the same mistakes again, see where that is leading, but that they would abdicate their responsibility to make the laws, to make treaties. Well, just one last thing. I mean, do you think that this is, they're telling us, well, we've got to do this now or we won't have any time to turn back? Is this because of what is happening with China and Russia
and a lot of the other BRICS countries moving away from the dollar. So now we've got to get our presence there, and America will be.
They always try to put that kind of pressure on us. If there's any pressure, it's because they've had this 2020, 2025 time frame where they've been talking about radically changing civilization. Maybe that's what they're really concerned about. Maybe that's really their time frame. I don't know. All I can say is it absolutely is not necessary. It is going to be a very harmful thing, and we need people to understand and get a bigger picture about this. This isn't something that only the unions should be standing up against. Republicans need to understand that this is anti-business. This is going to shut down small businesses. It is absolutely going to crush them under the weight of the multinationals because it's being written by those guys, and you're going to lose the free market. You're not going to have free trade. You're not even going to have a free market inside your country. They're going to shut down the small guys, and it's going to be a great step towards concentration of wealth, much greater than we've seen, and it's going to be much faster than we've seen.
Wow. Well, thank you, David. And it is especially so important for all of us to speak out now as we have these candidates out there putting their hats in the game to run for the president, to just speak up and let them know that we're not going to be pimped out anymore to corporate America or to the New World Order.
Another major health threat, this one in Toledo, Ohio, where everybody in the entire city has been told not to drink the water.
Ohio's governor declaring a state of emergency.
Did you know that the average person uses about 80 to 100 gallons of water at home every single day? If there's a water emergency, will you be prepared?
Panicked residents forming long lines throughout the day.
We're here at a supermarket in Toledo. You can see the shelves empty where water once was.
To stay safe and healthy during a crisis, you must have access to safe, clean water. Water which will not be available at your local grocery store.
There's a mad dash on right now to stock up on supplies.
The ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system is a must-have for every modern, independently minded household. Protect your family's safety during an emergency. Go to InfoWarsStore.com today to purchase your ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system or call 1-888-253-3139.